Hey, everybody, we're back for another episode of the Cantina Club. And this week we wrap up season 2 of Mandalorian with a really mind-blowing episode. I don't think I'm overstating it. And we'll be right back to talk about it after this.
We all know around here, Solo always
Gundark.
does shots first. Singing your no,
You got
raise
this.
your glass, and sing your no. Sing it with me, your no. At the Cantina Club.
It's out of control. Did you snort some spice before?
No, what are you talking about?
No.
What?
Okay.
No. I'm crazy. Traders don't do stuff like that. All right. So, all right, let's, before we get into the actual subject matter today, we do have sad news that everyone in Star Wars world knows about by now, but we have to talk about the passing of Jeremy Bullock on December 17th, which was 2 days ago as of this recording. He, for those of you who don't know, played Boba Fett, one of many, but he was the most well-known of those who played Boba Fett in the costume, beginning with Empire Strikes Back and then again in Return of the Jedi. Does anybody care to share some memories of meeting Jeremy?
Oh, I would like to. This was so sad for me to hear because one of my best Star Wars memories is meeting him at Star Wars Celebration in Orlando when we went to get his autograph. And we had already been through the long autograph lines, to get autographs from actors playing main characters. And the whole setup of Star Wars Celebration was running people through as quickly as possible the autograph lines. And he stopped and took his time. He deliberately shared stories with us, and he was delighted by our love of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And we had a poster that we had up in our Cantina Club from the time we were kids, the original Empire Strikes Back poster that we had him sign, that we told him about. And he was just so gracious and sweet. And we had the best visit with him, I think, out of anybody in the autograph session that Star Wars Celebration. So that's a wonderful memory.
Absolutely. That was the one in 2017, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He saw Kirshner's autograph on there. We didn't even bring it up, I don't think, and he started telling us about Kirshner.
Oh, nice.
And how wonderful a director he was and everything. And it was on Sunday. We had been there from when? Thursday? Or was it Friday?
No, Thursday.
We had been there from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He was the last person I think we got a signature from. So we had been through this grueling weekend that was incredible. Don't get us wrong. It was incredible, but
it definitely had its issues.
Yeah, there was a company that shall remain unnamed that was running the autographs section. That it was their first time, and it showed.
It
and it was a horrible experience overall. It almost put me off of getting any autographs. I'm glad it didn't, because I literally have not had a bad experience since then. I don't think.
Yeah.
But he kind of redeemed the whole thing for us because he had a very long line, but the reason he did was because he was taking his time to say hello to everyone. And it kind of and also at that moment we had the actor who had played the young Boba Fett was sitting across from him, and he put on like a lightsaber display at the same moment while we were in line for the fans, and was Daniel Logan. He was actually fighting one of the fans. They were showing him a routine and stuff.
Oh wow!
And and then we had Ian McDermott a couple of seats down from that, who was obviously smiling and engaging with people, and made me really regret that we didn't have time to get him too. But so all that together showed us that there was like a good side of the room still, even on Sunday after these guys had been through a lot more than us, just constant
signing.
I mean, it's crazy. And people were very unhappy in lines and stuff because they were getting cut off, even though they had bought autographs in advance and stuff. This company that shall remain unnamed oversold badly. But these guys were still gracious, and they pretty much, we were exhausted by that point, and I was to the point of saying, like, I'm not meeting any more of these people, and I'm not getting any more autographs. And not I've since not everything was to blame on anyone. It was just a bad situation.
It was. I'm hoping that was just kind of a one-off, because I've had nothing but good experiences before and since.
Well, Chicago was better, is what everybody said.
That's what I hear too. Yeah.
Yeah, but now Topps just I was not supposed to name them, but the company that shall remain unnamed has announced that they're not renewing the license. So they've lost the license to the autograph stuff. So it'll be some other company, probably founded by Disney, going forward.
Probably. Yeah.
But anyway, he turned pretty much the whole feeling of the end of the weekend and all that stuff around for us. And the reason I kept on getting more autographs and being willing to meet more people was probably because of him, you know?
Yeah.
And there's story after story after story from people over many decades that he was doing that. There's not a bad word out there about him.
Yeah. As far as me, I met him the one time at the celebration in Orlando back in 2010, the first one I'd ever attended. And it was such a different experience back then. It wasn't quite as big as what it has become now. And back then they were so much more approachable because literally they didn't even have to cue the lines. They did for the for the top name, stars, like for a Carrie Fisher or a Mark Hamill. Yeah, you're going to have a 2-hour line. But for these other actors, you could literally just walk up to the table and you'd be, if there was more than 3 people in line, you'd be surprised almost,
Yeah.
Which was the case with Jeremy Bullock when I met him, and he just couldn't have been, more cordial and friendly, and kind of like you guys referred to. He was just sharing stories and, mentioning things without me even having to ask him, which really, just it was great. And he was actually the first Star Wars personality I'd ever met. Anyone who'd ever actually been in the films or had a thing to do with the films. He was the first one I ever met. So I definitely have fond memories of that, and I have a photo. If I can find the photo, I'll put it up here on this episode of when I met Jeremy Bullock. But yeah, just a really great man, and it's definitely a sad loss for the Star Wars family for sure.
Yeah, and he and his wife was almost always with him, and she's an incredible person as well. They're just both all the good adjectives you can think of. And there's story after story of fans showing up at their house and they just invite them in.
Wow. Okay.
And as long as they're not taking advantage or whatever, but of them, he had a room like an upper floor office that was completely full of Boba Fett, everything and all the stuff he'd been given and all nice. Anyway, from what I understand, they were always welcoming to people and having a chat with them and treating people like human beings. And
that's great.
And Jeremy's probably up there with Dave Prowse. I think they say Dave Prowse, who we just lost, also, probably signed more autographs than any other Star Wars
I could see that.
Celebrity. But Jeremy signed a lot. And
sure he did. Yeah.
And a lot of people kind of abused that privilege of how nice he was too by like sending him crazy amounts of things through the mail and things like that. And so it wasn't always. I'm just saying that there's two sides to everything, when you're famous for anything. And the guy never showed anything but gratitude to the fans and welcoming to the fans. And that's really invaluable. There's people that kept Star Wars alive in between the big licensing and the big projects and the big splash media. And he was one of them,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he definitely will be missed. All right. So to move on, I had forgotten unboxing last week, but I've since added one. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into that. I picked up, this is a minor one. I just picked this up a couple of days ago. This is the latest issue of Star Wars Insider.
Oh,
Wow. On there. It's got an
wow.
interview with Sam Witwer, interview with Ashley Eckstein. Yeah, so
That's cool.
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, so I picked that up. But now the big one, and also kind of keeping with the theme here, this arrived last week, and I've always loved this series of books. I've been buying them. All of us have probably been buying them since the 70s. But it's the art of the Mandalorian.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it's a really nice hardcover, hardbound book. The art of the Mandalorian.
Wow, okay.
I didn't know that was
I didn't know that was available.
As all of us go, Christmas presents.
Yeah, birthday. I have a birthday coming up.
No, you don't. No, you don't. That's just a rumor. So greedy to want presents right after Christmas.
Wow,
Just because of a birthday.
So evil, Gundark.
Yeah, like Gundarks don't do anything when they're birthed. They just
Greedy
lay there.
Gundark.
Right.
Just
It's
lay there and
disgusting.
breathe. Yeah,
Greedy
Greedy
it's
Gundark.
Gundark.
not
Greedy
an
Gundark.
accomplishment.
All right. So let's get into our non-spoiler section of the show. Initial
Begin.
thoughts and overall what we thought of this episode. Greedo, you never go first. Why don't you go first?
Like the Ruddles, I was shocked and stunned.
Shocked and stunned.
I was shocked and stunned. And then another part happened and I was shocked and stunned. And then another part happened and I was shocked. I was shocked and stunned. But for those one person out there who's seen the Ruddles.
Yeah. Well, that would be me, I guess.
Yeah,
If there's
for
one
you.
person.
Everything's for you, Traitor.
It is. It should be.
I became king just to win your approval. It didn't work out either. But no, I just want to save it all for the spoiler stuff, so I don't have to watch what I'm saying, but like I ever do. But just if you haven't seen it at this point, you're screwed.
Oh yeah,
because by the time we put
it's
this,
got to be spoiled by now.
it's impossible. There's no way.
Yeah.
I've never seen since 2015, I think. Well, really, I guess The Last Jedi inspired this kind of reaction as well. But I haven't seen so much, internet interactivity with something Star Wars. The people chiming in that usually lurk in different forums and stuff and making comments. This was the episode that made grown men everywhere cry. And I think that's
Twice.
it was only partially because of this guy.
Only partially because of that guy.
But my thoughts are this was not the perfect episode as far as just every single little element being in like an orchestra or whatever, being some kind of composition, but it was the perfect episode for me personally. And so I'm an emotional I do get analytical, overly analytical at times, but I'm also ruled by my emotions when it comes to I gotta bring up some of your screens for these reactions. And so for me, emotionally, it was phenomenal. And I've now spoken too long before the spoilers. That's all I'm gonna say. It's incredible. It may not be for everyone, is what I'm trying to say. It may not be for everyone.
True.
Some people, there's going to be some people just like with the Boba Fett character. There's going to be some people thinking this was a wrong turn. This episode was a wrong turn. There's people that are going to react really emotionally to the end in a negative way for reasons we'll get into in spoilers. That's not me. I understand. And I also spent 2 years having people tell me, you don't write Star Wars, so get over it. You don't like what happened in Last Jedi. Well, it happened. The person in charge wrote it, therefore it's real. Get over it. So I just, I'm kind of immune to the people being upset about what happened in this episode, because for me, it was friggin' awesome.
Right. Gundark.
Me too. It was everything I love about Star Wars. And it tied the overall series into the Star Wars mythos in spectacular ways, while remaining true to the emotional core of this particular series, the relationship between the child and Mando. It was fun. It was suspenseful. It had absolutely kick-ass action scenes, and it was heartbreaking in the best way. So I just adored this episode.
Absolutely.
So eloquent. It's not fair. I got to call a flag. Are you reading?
No, I wasn't reading.
BS. Did you actually take the time to write down your thoughts?
I did take the time. I always try to take the time to write down my thoughts, but no, I wasn't reading.
You always take the time to write down your thoughts?
I'm an academic. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's a sickness of academia.
I do for a living.
That is
whatever I'm talking
academia.
about, it's important. So you should listen. But
I cannot avoid doing that.
No, it was just That was stunning. That was like the back of a novel or something.
Like the summary of the episode, the
Yeah.
official off the DVD.
I didn't think Gundarks were so culturally advanced. I thought they were all ears.
Kids appreciate great art.
All right, Traitor, you haven't said anything yet, so
Not yet. Yeah. I mean, to echo Greedo, I almost can't talk about this without spoilers. It was phenomenal in again all the best ways. I mean, I literally can't say anything better than what the two of you already have. It was heartbreaking in all the best ways. It was spectacular. The action sequences, the emotional component to it, not only from what actually happened on screen, but just the presence of certain actors and characters in this episode just took it to a level that has not yet been reached, in my opinion, for Mandalorian. So I think I'll just leave it at that.
This is the best I've felt about Star Wars since the original trilogy, except maybe the end of Force Awakens.
So I agree with you. I'll definitely I'll agree with that for sure. All right.
Gee, do those things have anything in common?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. We'll find out right after this spoiler warning. We are now going into the spoiler section of the show. So if you haven't seen it, and if it hadn't been spoiled for you, which is absolutely impossible at this point if you're a Star Wars fan, turn it off. Turn us off. Go watch it. Come back and watch us. Okay. So getting into spoilers. Who wants to start? This episode is called The Rescue, and we'll let Greedo start because he, according to our reaction video, as usual we watched this episode together on a group watch, and he says he figured it out from the moment he saw what the big spoiler was.
I didn't figure it out, but I couldn't believe it. But I almost said pause the video because I almost wanted to tell you guys so that I would know I could take a big swing and miss.
And I'm so glad you didn't.
Yeah,
because actually Gundark and I were talking before we started recording, saying the same thing. That she said the same thing. She was, I'm glad he didn't say anything.
Well, that's why I held back because I knew
because we both would have been doing nothing but looking for him for the rest of the episode.
You've
been not enjoying actually what was happening.
Well, I wanted to say the beginning of this, of course, the title. We were just talking, I think, last week about titles in regards to the Believer and how I love when the titles have multiple meanings and everything. And this one's called The Rescue, and it's about rescuing the child first and foremost, but it's also foreshadowing of the kind of epic, Skywalker side of making itself known, of Star Wars making itself known in the Mandalorian finally, with a big stamp.
And a lot of people would go so far as to say, me included, it's like rescuing Star Wars in a lot of ways.
That's a good.
Mandalorian has kind of already done that as a whole, but this particular episode even puts
the bow on it.
This is kind of this is like the bow on the top of the present.
I don't know that they were arrogant enough to be thinking that.
No, I don't. I'm not saying
it's not arrogance though. When you have something great in your hip pocket and you know it, that's when you can get a little cute with the titles and with the details and stuff because you're just polishing it. It's like everybody knows when you've done something really good. But anyway, from the title on, I had a suspicion of what the spoiler was, and it is not because of my great brain because I don't have one. It just occurred to me, because I'm such a nerd. And the rescue is of course a throwback to that line. From A New Hope. I'm here to rescue you, which flashed in my brain because that's all I ever think about is Star Wars dialogue and stuff like that. But anyway, the reason I want to start was because I thought the opening scene of this was one of the strongest ones they've done in a long time, as far as setting a tone and advancing characters and showing us again, illustrating again the conflict we're in and the conflict between the protagonists, which is in this case the Mandalorian and Cara Dune are the two that kind of crash into the cockpit of this Imperial shuttle And again, we have perfect casting for Imperials. I was wondering if they were clones, because they're with a clone doctor in the cockpit, and they look so similar and act so similar. They got the British accent. They both, we've had a recurring theme of just perfect casting for Imperial,
Oh, absolutely.
upper echelon Imperials, and these pilots thought they were moths or something, and
right. The attitude was just unbelievable.
The attitude coming off was full, 4 chiclets and above.
Full 4 chiclets. Yeah, you have to have at least 4 chiclets to act like that to get away with it.
Yeah. I mean, you're really pushing it. You might lose some chiclets but anybody that doesn't know, that's the badge on it. We call it chiclets.
Yeah, we call them chiclets.
You don't even know what a chiclet is anymore. I don't even know if they exist anymore.
I don't think chiclets have existed in 40 years.
40 years of bad breath informed us what chiclets were when we were kids. But anyway, this is just such a great moment where the Imperial pilot decides he's not going to surrender, and grabs he knows they're there for the scientist, grabs the scientist, holds him hostage. The other pilot tries to negotiate and be a reasonable human being, and he shoots him right in the head.
Right in the head. Yep,
just in the back of the head.
And then we have this great standoff with Cara Dune, the Mandalorian, the pilot, and the scientist. And again, the Mandalorian assumes the role that we've seen kind of over and over for him when he's not alone. When he's alone, he is the driver of the action most of the time. When he's with others, he is the witness.
Yeah,
he is. This is almost like a show about the janitor or what. I mean, he's not the janitor, he's better than that.
No, I know. Yeah, but I get the point you're making.
Yeah, this is almost about someone just stuck in the Star Wars galaxy, and no one ever takes his solutions seriously. He's always other people that are more passionate drive the action, and he witnesses it a lot of times.
Right.
Like going all the way back to the prisoner episode, he tried again and again and again to be reasonable with those people and with everybody involved, but everybody had their own reasons for doing what they did, and he couldn't stop them. And then he ended up, asserting himself at the end. But again, we have him being his mask, being the observer of what's going on. And it's a phenomenal scene with the Imperial pilot. Someone gave him the memo that this was his show. Like, this is a crossover. I fully expect this to be a crossover with a comic or something where he was the main character, because he had all the hero shots. He just took over. He drove the dialogue. He was taunting just like Moff Gideon, or even better. Went right for the jugular with the Alderaan stuff. He thought he was Sherlock Holmes. He saw her tattoo and immediately started
I saw the tear. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but then they put him in his place and showed you what happens to a very, very minor villain that you're not ready for the prime time, and she just shot him right in the face. And anyway, if that had been the culmination of an episode, I would have thought that was brilliant. But that was just the opening. And is it Gina Carano? Is that her name?
Yeah, Gina Carano.
Gina Carano. Yeah, she does a lot with the more that appearances she makes, the more into that character I am. And obviously the writers are into that character too, because they keep giving her significant beats and moments where you connect with her, and she's allowed to use that kind of righteous anger that she's good at projecting. And here you're on her side, but even the Mandalorian is a little shocked at what she did, because the scientist is pivotal to what they're going to do next. We don't even know. They never tell us how they found the scientist. It's just a plot hole, but they
just
found
there.
him.
Yeah.
And so she basically just sends a blast right against the scientist's ear and takes that guy out, which anything could have happened. The guy could have pulled his trigger and killed him. But she warned him, and you got to see an encapsulation of the character right there, and how much she's willing to take, and the fact that she warns her enemies, but once it gets to the point where she knows Imperials, she's seen them before, she's seen this arrogance before, and there's only one way to deal with it in her mind, is put them down. So that was just a brilliant opening all the way around. And it shows you that this show and that Star Wars, so many people have looked at this Star Wars galaxy and said, isn't this played out? Haven't they done everything? But it's just a great moment, and it's from the past. It's set from 30 years ago, our time. It's still using the Galactic Civil War and the aftermath. It's still using the same stuff we're used to, but it was fresh and new because of the way they did it. So they're convincing me that no, this stuff isn't played out. It's all about the quality and what you're willing to put there on the screen. That was not a typical what you'd expect from a Disney show opening moment. It was pretty hardcore even for Clone Wars. Clone Wars has some very hardcore moments in it.
Oh yeah.
But I loved it anyway, is my point. And if that had been the culmination of an episode, I would have been like, wow, what a great episode. But it was
but
the
to
intro.
Start with such an impactful scene was very
and
impressive.
And they're still, even in this moment, where they're bringing this season to a close and they're drawing all these threads together, they still take a minute to inform us more about the characters and the ones that aren't necessarily driving the action. You know, they're just part of the crew. And that's really cool.
Yeah, agreed.
So anyway, that's what I wanted to start with. I'm verbose as usual.
So that basically gets us into the action of the story. That's how basically Din, Boba, and the crew are able to get the scientist, Dr. Pershing, back, or for the first time they capture him. And then from there, where do we go from there? I'm trying to remember what the next scene was. Oh, they actually go to. That's when they went to find the other Mandalorians. Right. They have a little talk on the slave one. And then next thing we basically see is them arriving through a couple of amazingly beautiful shots of the slave one coming down into the atmosphere and going across the landscape of this planet. This planet was unnamed, I'm assuming. Did we catch a name on this planet?
I never did.
Yeah, I never did.
Same planet where he met the Mandalorians originally.
There wasn't an ocean there, so
no, that was just like this big ocean planet, you know, with the docks and stuff. Because I looked at it again the second time, I looked at it a little more close. I was like, no, that definitely doesn't look.
There was a lot of walrus men there, so in the bar. So I was assuming like Walrus Man Planet or some planet that they were. It's like the squid face guys.
Walrus Man Planet.
But again, if you just troll bars in the galaxy,
there's going to be Mandalorians.
There's going to be Mandalorians just hanging out.
Boba Fett and Mando walk into a bar.
And I thought it was interesting that the guy that I predicted would die in this episode, third Mando on the right or whatever, the sidekick guy, he's not even in.
He's not there.
It's an empty seat for him, and nobody even brings it up. I wonder if they're showing that the war is taking a toll, or if he's off doing something else. You know?
I kind of wondered about that myself. So we arrived there. They go, like you were saying, they go into this bar and they meet up with our second appearance of Bo-Katan in the series, and her and I forget the character's name, but her female partner is there, and like you just mentioned, the male guy is character's nowhere to be found and is never referenced, but they're basically talking to them about, hey, we need your help. We need to find Moff Gideon. And of course, she immediately discounts this. Well, you're never going to find him. You know, never mind the fact that in the last episode, the ATM told him where he was. It's like the most common knowledge in the world, but she doesn't think it's the most secret knowledge ever.
Never mind, they took over a ship a few episodes ago that was about to jump to him.
Right, exactly. But she's so apparently like, oh, you'll never find him. Anyway, so this leads to a confrontation, basically, and one of the best lines in Mandalorian, one of the deepest burns I've ever heard, is the female Mandalorian, Bo-Katan's partner, tells Boba, "Oh, I didn't think it was appropriate, or I didn't think it was allowed for sidekicks to talk." When he said something,
sidekicks allowed to talk.
Oh, that was good. So that leads to a confrontation between the two characters, and we get basically about a 2-minute wrestling match in the bar there between the two characters that ends with, you know, them basically flaming off each other, you know, with their flame tools.
Oh!
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
Wow,
Nice.
Boba Fett to a table. Oh!
If we had shown half that spine to the Empire, we would have never lost our planet.
But,
I love how everybody, whenever they walked into the bar, everybody just started exiting. It's like there are 2 Mandalorians already there. 2 more come in, and everybody's like, oh no.
yeah, I'm out of here. This will not end well.
Something's going to go down.
Yeah, I'm out.
They could see that these two wear this type of armor, and these two that just came in are wearing different armor.
Yeah, this will
We're
not
gone.
end well.
Yeah. I'm not even named in the script. I need to get out of here. I'm
That
expendable.
screams casualty.
All the red shirts exit to the left.
Yes. Oh, I love it. So, okay.
That was
so,
a great fight, by the way. The
No, it really
first of
was.
many.
Right.
I love the female character whose name we forget
Again, yeah.
used her backpack as part of the fight. Her jetpack.
That was great. Yeah, to
gain
kind of
leverage.
over. Yeah, exactly. That was
Yeah.
really cool.
But
That was
again,
very,
you
very
could
cool.
tell they were just into more throwing each other through the tables to make a point. And
Right.
I even watched the scene again, and Bo-Katan and Din Djarin just kind of stand there with their arms at their sides watching.
Yeah.
So yeah, they don't even take it very seriously either. So
Right, exactly.
the Boba Fett didn't pull out any moves like knee rockets or punching her in the gut and firing a rocket through her body or anything. The surefire kills.
Okay, so the character's name is Casca Reeves. So we
Okay.
know that moving forward. Casca Reeves. And I'm trying to remember now the name of the actress who portrays her.
Sasha something.
Yes, and she's like a WWE wrestler. And,
There you go.
and from the research I've done, this is the first acting job she's ever had. And she's
Oh, she's
basically
good.
just been.
she's
she
doing
does
a
a
great job.
phenomenal job. I think she does a great job. But anyway, yeah, she's a WWE wrestler, and she this is her first acting job. So Casca Reeves.
These
All right.
directors that they have on this
Mhm.
crew for Mandalorian must really be good at handling actors, and the whole
Right.
crew and everything, because they get a lot out of and they manage to set a consistent tone with the acting, which
Mhm.
is one of the hardest things to do. I mean, even in the Star Wars movies, there's guys that we think are legendary because their tone is completely out of left field.
Yeah.
Some of
Right.
their, two fighters against a Star
Star
Destroyer.
Destroyer, yeah.
That's legendary because they left it in, and,
Right, exactly.
yeah,
not,
but it's
not because it was any particularly good dialogue delivery.
No, just the opposite. But yeah, but they managed to take, if they're managing to take wrestlers and MMA fighters and longtime actors and stunt people and all this stuff and cameos and making it have a consistent tone like they're doing, it's another thing that's like,
that's the key. Like you said, they have such a diverse cast, but it has that even tone. Yeah, like you said, that's definitely
and
a
people
credit to
even-
the directors
and the writers and everything, because
Mhm.
people even talk the way they set a conversational. Gundark could help me with the terminology, but the way they speak is it pegs it as kind of a time.
Well, it's the
in
tone and the
galaxy.
cadence of their exactly
Yeah.
of the dialogue exactly. So yeah, no, it's
So
excellent.
anyway, it was a great fight scene. It was
yeah, it
blocked
was
really well and
it was really
executed
good.
well. We got to see Boba
Kicking more butt. Yeah,
and also kind of put in his place, showing that the
yeah,
Mandalorians again are nobody to be fooled with. None of them are.
exactly. So from there, they agree to team up because once she realizes, of course, they're going after Moff Gideon, Bo-Katan, wants the Darksaber back. She keeps saying he has something that, so apparently everybody has something that belongs to somebody else. So it's like, you have something that belongs to me. I'm surprised she didn't go into that speech. He has something that belongs to me.
Are you guys disturbed by her almost fanaticism at this point in trying to reclaim the Darksaber?
No,
It's kind
because
of
I watched
bothering
the Clone Wars.
Okay, I haven't got to her. I haven't got to her part in the
She's
Clone
not.
Wars
She's
yet.
not the black and white heroine character.
That's what I
her
like
sister.
about
Her sister was.
Mhm.
She's the.
That's
She's
what
the black.
I
She's the black
sense
sheep.
that. I sense
Yeah.
that definitely about her. And kind of the egotism where she says, the Darksaber restored to me,
Mhm.
then Mandalore will be reclaimed. So
Mhm.
there's a kind of egotism behind all that seems like it's going to lead to future conflict, maybe.
Sure. No, I
I
agree with that.
do.
I agree with that.
No,
But I
she's
like
she's
that.
you could call her a revolutionary or you could call her a terrorist. I mean,
Yeah.
take your pick.
It all
And-
depends on literally from a certain point of view. It's like, yeah, exactly. We kind of got into that last episode talking about, New Republic, Empire,
Yeah.
it's all bad depending on what side of the coin you fall on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And according to all these episodes, something terrible has been done to Mandalore, and there was conflict even before all that happened. So you can't say that their cause is wrong or anything. And she's not a bloodless, heartless, character by any means. But part of her journey in the Clone Wars was to become more humanized, and in Rebels, and to become more of a dependable leader, to accept other points of view than just her own, kind of.
Mhm.
And yeah.
Yeah, because
So
wasn't
you
it
get that in here too.
wasn't it Boba Fett in this episode who made the comment about how the Empire blasted
Yeah,
Mandalore to glass?
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's what kind of started the whole the wrestling match there in the bar. But anyway, so she agrees. They agree to accompany Din and Boba Fett and company to on this quest to try and get the child back to rescue Grogu. And then from there, if I'm not mistaken, on the run, I don't know why. I think what happened at the end of this episode is just fried my brain as far as the running order of everything in this episode. But
One thing I want to mention real quick was an
Mhm.
important moment in this scene too is
Yeah.
that the Mandalorian, I mean, there's a bunch of them, but Din
Mhm.
agrees kind of offhandedly to join Bo-Katan in her quest to take back
Oh, yeah,
Mandalore
yes.
if she gets the child back
The
to her.
child, yeah.
Yeah,
Did he?
he
Because
says
I
he-
recall him
Yes.
saying she can have the ship, but I don't
He
recall him
said
saying
No,
anything
he
you want.
agreed. Yeah,
Oh,
he
okay,
agreed.
okay.
And when she said, I want you to reconsider, he said, fair enough, was his actual answer. I think for the Mandalorian, that's a binding.
Okay, I guess I
Contract.
thought for me I was saying fair enough, you can take the ship. Is what I
Yeah.
thought he
No,
was saying.
I think
Okay,
she
it
was-
was,
gotcha.
she wanted him to reconsider
She knew
joining
the
them.
position she was in, that
Gotcha.
she had leverage on him, and she
Yeah.
used it.
Yeah.
And so I think, even as a throwaway as that moment was, I think it sets the table for where they're going to go next.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Okay. All right. So they have a planning session basically at this point. They start deciding how they're going to infiltrate this, Moff Gideon's cruiser and how they're going to get in and get the child out and get the dark saber and all this kind of stuff. So Dr. Pershing suddenly speaks up. And they wisely listened to him because at first he was going to be discounted. I was like, oh yeah, because you're going to have I think it was Cara Dune maybe that said, yeah, why are you talking? You're clearly, opinion, have the wrong opinion that we need. And so, but they said, no, let's listen to him because, this guy apparently is not, he's just being used by Gideon.
Yeah.
He's not like a hardcore Imperial like these officers we've seen. Looks, probably if we saw his story, which they'll probably do in a comic somewhere, he probably was literally kidnapped from Camino and forced, literally like they probably have his, family at gunpoint or something, making him do all this stuff. So together, he tells them a little bit about how the ship is laid out, and the best ways kind of maybe to infiltrate, which they come up with their plan, which is basically a really, really cool plan. That they're basically, they captured, of course, the Imperial shuttle, from the opening scene, and they're going to use that as though they're incoming, Imperials, but under duress, because obviously they don't want to be dealing with code clearances and things like that they don't have. They need to just immediately come in for an emergency landing. So they've got Boba Fett in Slave One. He's going to be firing at them to make it look like he's pursuing them, and they just have to land. We'll ask questions later. Let us dock, and we're good. So that's basically the plan that goes into action, and it pretty much comes off without a hitch. We have a really cool shot of them launching TIE fighters, which I thought was amazing. They literally have this crane that kind of pulls them into position, and there's literally almost like a launch tube that they just come flying right out of. So this,
unlike us, Star Wars doesn't get old, and there's certain designs that guys came up with in the 70s that were executed that are still amazing, and they've tried to improve on it, but nothing hits you like
the
seeing
original
that TIE fighter drawn over the
original
center of
series.
that, and then they draw the ship down, and you see inside the cockpit there's a guy in there, and he's just spread the butter because he's toast. He's experiencing the last moments of his life.
Exactly.
But at least TIE fighters are more feared, and even down to the sound than stormtroopers, but still they have a high mortality rate.
Exactly, they do.
Oh.
Nice.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is so playing with our toys. This is
Yeah,
so
it is.
I hope you have your final wishes arranged, TIE Fighter pilot.
Oh wow.
That is very Battlestar Galactica again.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is.
Probably from a video game, though. A Star Wars video game, but that's very reminiscent of. I forget what
Yeah,
they
it's
call
just reminiscent of the launch tubes they use.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I wanted to interject was these guys know that there's power in these designs and everything, and in you could just say we're gonna totally go off on a whole new direction. Gideon has new fighters, new everything, but they're smart enough to give us more of what we love to see.
Mhm.
And we love to see it, not just for nostalgia, but just because it's just totally badass and cool.
Right,
And
exactly.
you
It's not just
nobody's
a
been able to beat
nostalgia
it.
cop
I
out. Yeah.
no, it reminds me of the Alien, from Alien.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When is there ever a better monster? They've been trying for
That's the thing. They've been trying to
years and
improve on it.
years.
Yeah, and it just all they end up doing is making it worse because
Yeah.
it's already at this perfect level,
Right.
and about the only improvement I saw on is when they created the Alien Queen, basically for aliens,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
from there it
less
was
is
just kind
more
of downhill.
sometimes.
Yeah, less
And
is.
but
less is
yeah,
more.
there's perfect moments that create these things, and these guys have it in their arsenal, and they're smart enough to use it in an episode like this. And that's all I want to say.
Right.
That was
Yeah.
really cool.
Agreed. So they do infiltrate the ship. Meanwhile, Moff Gideon on the bridge is pretty much aware that something's up here. He knows that they're coming for the child. But they basically at this point they're going to split into two groups, and by group I mean Den is a group because he's going off on his own, which was his demand that he's going after the child. He's going to save the child first and foremost before he even considers doing anything else. So Bo-Katan. The girl I already forgot, Cosca Reeves, Fennec Shan, they all basically they come on board and they immediately start taking out stormtroopers left and right. Once again, blaster fodder, as Greedo was wont to say, also known as slapstick humor now. But just like how many ways can you kill a stormtrooper, in which we see several in this one.
Yeah, there was some
like
good
the one
ones.
where she used the jetpack to take one out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was
Which was
good.
really
One
cool.
person looped him with the wire, and the next person flew into him while he pulled
Right.
him back. That was great.
Exactly. Yeah, that was awesome.
And you're reminded again that Mandalorians probably developed some of these weapons and stuff to give themselves the emulation of Jedi powers,
Right.
which was addressed in Rebels a little bit when
Yeah.
Ezra and Sabine were training against each other, and he would kind of taunt her for saying, your tools are an impersonation of what I can do.
What I can do on my own. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she showed him how effective they could be. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
I like
Very good
that
point.
they stick to that stuff without getting outrageous with it. They know what the people doing this show know what the Mandalorians do, what their weapons do, and they've kind of put respect back on it after we've seen it fail in the movies and stuff, and not have the technology to pull it off in the movies.
Right. Exactly.
But how great were those four characters just whooping ass
Oh,
together?
that was amazing.
wonderful.
Yeah, that was
Even
so
Moff Gideon
cool.
said, "You have an impressive fire team defeating
Yeah.
you," later in the episode, and it really
Yeah.
was. Fennec Shan was just off the hook, amazing.
Oh, yeah.
They gave
Yeah.
her these moments last like a second or two,
Yeah.
but they're awesome. They're
Really cool moments. Yeah.
Yeah, you when you elevate the action in an episode and make it where you can follow it, but it's more complicated than just normal, point A to B action choreography and stuff. Even though it takes so much effort to do a few seconds, but even though you only have a few seconds, you elevate the whole property, the whole
Absolutely, of
episode,
course.
because you think you're seeing even more than you're seeing, and it adds that extra layer that people that aren't into martial arts and fight choreography don't really get or understand. They just
Mhm.
think it's throwaway
What
stuff.
all goes into it. Yeah.
Oh, there's an incredible amount of
Mhm.
work and everything that goes into every move that they do in there. But it's so appreciated by people like us when they do that extra stuff, because we're not violent people. We don't I don't watch wrestling, I don't care about
Right.
that
Same
stuff.
here. I don't know anything about
But
it.
I admire these characters and their abilities, and when you make them stand out and give them, it's like a part of their personality. You can't just have them stand in the corner and say, I've dedicated my life to being a badass. They have
Without
to show
showing
it
it.
once in a while.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
even if it's a few seconds, you're just impressed all over again, and it just puts the shine on the whole thing.
Mhm.
You think you've seen a massive war when you've really seen a couple of
Mm.
actors and stunt people doing a brilliant piece of choreography, edited well and blocked well so that you could follow it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've seen people online who've been saying that they hope that this is what Rangers of the New Republic will be like, the new series that's coming up, kind
Right.
of gave them visions of what that might be like, especially if Cara Dune appears in it,
Mhm.
with
Yeah, that could be something really special.
I think we also mentioned too in
the
our
group of
reaction
Rangers taking
video.
people down in incredible ways. So that
Uh,
it's,
this is another thing that doesn't get old, which is shootouts with stormtroopers. You know,
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like I made a comment a few episodes ago. It's like as soon as I see, old school stormtroopers, I'm all in. I'm
Yeah.
just like they give me what I want to see. It's like I don't
another
care if they're
incredible
laughing
design.
stock, if they're just
Yeah,
whatever. But it's that original design. Everything it signifies and symbolizes in me in my life personally too. It just speaks to what I want to see, and I'm always immediately attentive when one of them shows up. So.
yeah, it's very true, and it's just fun. Because again, this goes back to the action figures thing, but how many hours did we spend as kids pretending to shoot stormtroopers and wishing we could,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we would play video games that had a similar aesthetic, and we would say that's a stormtrooper and this is Han Solo, our guy is Han Solo.
Right. This
And
rock is a stormtrooper.
yeah, just so we could
Piece
come
of
anywhere
wood is
close
Han
to it.
Solo, yeah.
Yeah, and now it's just a reality, and I really I do think, unlike you though, I think they need to go back and now give us the stormtroopers as an effective force again. I would like to see I don't know, I would like to see them salvaged somewhat.
I absolutely agree with that. No, I would love to see that. I mean, to me, one of the few saving graces I think for the stormtroopers in this show right now, the last few episodes, is that at least we do see them hitting Din, but because of they can get away with that because of the Beskar. I mean, they're hitting him in the face and the chest, so you can't technically say they can't hit the bar side of a barn because they have hit him multiple times, but they can't seem to hit anybody else that's not wearing Beskar. So.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's many moments of ultimate humiliation in this series, but the one for me was when they walked down the middle of the corridor with the smoke screen, and the stormtroopers decided to shoot the edges of the corridor.
Right.
Not a single one of them thought to cover the middle. And it's kind of a huge area you could just fire into and you hit something.
In the middle of it.
That was just sad.
Yeah.
But I console myself by saying this is the Imperial Remnant, and they're strung out. We don't know their story, but we saw from the Believer that they're not in good shape, and also from the beginning of the series, Moff Gideons are still polishing their armor, and they're still maintaining discipline, but they're not what they used to be, if they ever were.
I mean, it hasn't degenerated into a state of guerrilla warfare. They still have some organization to them, but it's clearly
but the best and brightest
like
might be dead already.
Right.
They may be dead or captured or surrendered.
And if you do some homework like we did on that Operation Cinder stuff that they referred to last week, that'll tell you a little bit about kind of why they're in the shape they are too, and who's left, and why certain ones are left and others don't remain. So.
Okay, but anyway, I just wanted to say, great action scene again.
Fantastic
with the 4 of these action scenes, with the 4 of these doing their plan to advance on the bridge, and Bo-Katan's driving their little force with her objective of getting Gideon. And she says before they arrive, no matter what happens, he's mine.
Yeah.
And you can take him alive, but he has to surrender to me.
Yeah, and it's important. And it's important, that she doesn't say
Yeah.
why, but she mentions that on 2 or 3 occasions.
But
So
yeah, she
basically-
wasn't kidding when she said we're going to draw attention. I mean, they
Oh,
just
boy, did
wrecked
they.
the entire
Yeah.
thing.
Literally wrecked it. And so basically at this point they do have two main objectives here. The group, as it were, is basically heading towards the bridge to capture Moff Gideon, or so they think. Meanwhile, Din is going to the detention level to rescue Grogu. So we keep getting shots back and forth of them taking out all the stormtroopers versus Grogu kind of doing more of a stealth mission on his part, as opposed to just trying to shoot it out with him. He's just hiding in the corners and letting them pass and then moving on his way.
Reminiscent of Obi-Wan on the Death Star.
Right, very reminiscent. Yeah. That's a good point. So meanwhile, Moff Gideon has told them to activate the Dark Troopers. And we learned earlier that Dr. Pershing had explained that they take too much power to leave them always on alert and charged up. So when they want to use them, they have to actually charge them. Great plot device. I get it.
Yeah.
It gives them a minute. It gives them a minute.
Yeah. We couldn't cycle them through and have 2 at a time.
Right. Exactly. They have to be all or nothing.
Yeah, it's all or nothing. I got all these Dark Troopers. They're just a mass. They're only powerful together, even though they're super powerful alone.
Exactly.
Yeah, master strategist Moff Gideon at work again.
Yes.
So he just loves a challenge. He doesn't want to have too much of an advantage.
So bless you. So these things do get charged up, and coincidentally, they are just starting to walk out of their alcove or their place where they keep them stored into the alleyway right as Din is walking by. And it was such a great scene too. When he sees him, he just immediately like, no. I love it. And he runs over to the controls and tries to close the door, which he almost does, but one of them gets through. And boy, that's a great scene right there.
Yeah. No. Oh, Mando.
Okay, here we go. We have the setup.
101.
We have one loose,
Yeah.
and the masters are contained. Oh!
Oh.
Oh no. This is gonna hurt.
Oh.
Where's the can opener when you need one?
Oh no. I just love the sounds he makes throughout that scene. It's having that beat out of him. It's just grunting and screaming in total agony. Like he's in this awesome costume, but he's definitely not a superhero.
The costume is getting driven into the
that's the thing. It's like
into the wall.
Literally punching him, and his head is
Into the metal
wall.
Into the metal.
Yes, a metal wall. Exactly. So I mean, he tries everything. He tries to use, his fire on it. That doesn't do any good. That just makes it matter, and it throws him across the corridor.
Look cool, though.
And so, it does. And then finally, he finally saves himself with the Beskar spear. He pulls that out and is able to jam that basically up, where his throat would be, and takes its head off, and that pretty much ends that. But meanwhile, the other ones are trying to bust out. They're punching their way through the glass of the doors, trying to get out. But before they can do that, he's able to activate the doors, and they go flying off into space. And we think we're done with them. Ha ha ha. So that
I wonder if that silly bird will remember he can fly. Nope. They all have jets in their feet, yet they got sucked out through the thing, and not a one of them activated that too.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so from there he makes his way to the detention area, opens the door to find, of course, what everyone expected: Moff Gideon standing there with Grogu. And he's got the Darksaber activated, just hovering above Grogu's head. And then we get a good scene there where basically Moff Gideon is just, taunting not only Din but Grogu, and just going on this rant about the Darksaber, about, oh, look how beautiful it is and how amazing it is, and this, and how it wields power, and if whoever has this has the power to rule Mandalore, and blah blah blah. He goes on this long speech about all that.
I felt like this was Moff Gideon's "I love democracy" moment.
No, it really kind of was, because he actually fools not the viewers, but fools Din into believing that, okay, you know what, you can have Baby Yoda. I'll keep the Darksaber, and we'll just go our separate ways and pretend this never happened. I got what I wanted from him. All I wanted to do was study his blood, so we're good. And then Din,
he almost fooled me, though.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anybody can fool you.
Oh.
To be fair.
Giancarlo Esposito was so awesome in that, where it was almost like
he was good.
Counted them before,
And honestly, and I say didn't.
He played it right on the line. He really did.
And when I say he didn't fool me, what I mean is that the part that gave it away is that when Din, and I get it, he's got tunnel vision for this child, and he immediately just turned his back on Gideon. That's when I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
I think even on the reaction video, I was like, don't turn your back on him. It's like, because he immediately turned his back and just went for the child. I was like, that's just stupid. That's just asking for it, And that's what happened. He immediately ignites the Darksaber and starts slashing away at him. The battle spills out into the corridor, and they're going back at it, with the Beskar spear and the Darksaber, and ultimately, of course, Din disarms him, and then it ends with a great line delivered by Giancarlo Esposito of Din just holding the spear right up to his neck, and he says, "Oh, you're leaving me alive. This ought to be interesting."
Yeah, he's really annoying with the
I
way
love-
he calculates everything.
Yeah.
And yet he misses the obvious so many times. But,
Yeah.
I
but
love
he
his
knows everything's going to
attitude.
happen.
Yeah.
He like instantly flips, you know,
Yeah.
from in defeat, he's still gloating. So it
Yeah.
Yeah.
for not even a second does it seem to affect him.
Right.
No, he wears a badge that says,
Gloating.
I'm still better than you at all times.
Yeah.
Until the end. He breaks down at the end. But
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What a look you just gave him.
Oh come on, Mando. It's for the kid. Come on.
Nice. Oh.
Yeah, that was a great move.
Oh wow, Gideon's ferocious.
Oh, see, it helps being an actual Jedi, Gideon. You could have pulled that back.
how great was he in that whole sequence?
Oh, it was
And,
fantastic.
And again, I keep banging the drum on this, but the fight scene was incredible. It really
Yeah.
was. It was quick, but not really. It felt quick because they really went at it. And but when I watched it a second time, my first impression was it was too brief. But when you watch it a second time, there's a lot in there.
A lot
They
going
really-
on. It's a very
Yeah, they're
frenetic
not
battle.
kidding around. Those guys really go at each other, and
Yeah.
so there's different kinds of fights where people are feeling each other out. And from the opening salvo, Gideon's out to kill him.
He's
you know,
ferocious. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Once-
that's the best word. It's ferocious. Yeah,
Mhm.
just
and
all
he's
over
skilled
him.
too. I mean,
Yeah.
they match each other really well.
Mhm.
And the reason Gideon is defeated is because he doesn't have force
He
powers.
doesn't have the force.
He's disarmed, and he
Yeah.
isn't able to call his saber back to continue the
Mhm.
fight. But but I just want to say that was another. This episode's chock full of I don't know. I mean, this is where the budget comes into play, whether people realize it or not. It costs a lot of time and effort to put those kind of scenes together,
Mhm.
and then they're edited together into a flurry of moves and motions and everything that looks like it's all natural and happen fast and everything. But it takes
Yeah.
weeks
Oh, yeah.
sometimes
I'm sure.
to
Yeah.
and if they used a stunt double for Gideon in different shots, I didn't notice it.
You couldn't tell. Yeah.
No, he's really
Yeah.
Giancarlo is really whooping ass in there.
Mhm.
And my favorite moment, there was two of them that I wanted to highlight real quick, was right when they go in the corridor and they separate for the first time because they're just going at it like Bond and one of his villains. They separate, and the look Moff Gideon gives the Mandalorian when he takes a breath for a second and is just looking at his enemy that was just such a perfect choice. I know editors, they have all these different cuts to choose from and everything.
Yeah.
And it was very, very reminiscent to me of Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace,
Mhm.
when there's a point where they trade blows and then Darth Maul steps
Yep.
back. and
I know
cuts him
exactly
out
that
of
moment.
his
Yeah, he
back.
steps back and he just kind of
Yeah.
looks at
Uh-huh.
him.
Yeah.
Just-
Yeah, and Moff Gideon is a fighter in kind of that school, I think,
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
ferocity and overpowering with fear and
Right.
intimidation and skill, but he doesn't intend for a fight to go on very long. He wants to end it.
Oh
right
no,
out
he
of
just
the
wants to.
gate.
Yeah, exactly.
But I love that look. And then at the end, when they do that exchange where the Mandalorian kicks the spear back up over to block.
oh
the
yeah,
Oh,
saber.
that was a wonderful.
that was so
moment,
great. Yeah, such
Yeah,
a great.
that
move.
was incredible. And
Mhm.
but again, it's interesting when you have one character unmasked, and he's always been unmasked, and you have one character masked who's always been masked, and you throw them at each other in this situation, and the guy without the mask has to carry so much of that,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then the rest is action and kinetic and body language and things like that from the other guy. So don't underestimate what the other guy did, but kudos to this. I felt like that fight was his moment more so than anything else, because I still feel a little disconnect to this villain as a villain. I feel like he is too arrogant. They didn't quite have him planned out to be the ultimate villain for the show. But that moment where he just unloads the whoop ass really helped make the character for me, and more than just the one-sided guy who's just always reserved and taunting. It reminded me of when he shot the power pack to the big blaster at the end of the first season.
Oh,
He
right.
was watching and assessing the situation. He said, "Enough's enough," and he with one, cut through the BS, and with one move, altered the battle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of character that I want him to be. And he showed that a lot in this. And back to the conversation in the cell, I think Gundark said it. He did an incredible job there.
He did.
No, he really
Because
did.
it would be so easy to be the leering villain, and over the top and chew the scenery.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually had you believing, or you could have believed it. He sold it as if like, look, I'm misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
You guys don't understand where I'm coming
all
from.
I wanted was to study his blood. Yeah.
But we've seen him taunting the child before and smiling with the Darksaber. We know he's a
Exactly.
sadist, and that these words aren't true.
Right.
But anyway, very cool scene. Another one. They have moments in this episode with two or three characters, small groups of characters that really deliver, and that was one of them.
Right. Absolutely. Agreed. So meanwhile, that battle gets resolved while the Cara Dune and Bo-Katan and company are reaching the bridge. They end up taking out everybody in the bridge. Nobody escapes that bridge alive, which I thought was interesting that our favorite three chicklet female Imperial officer doesn't even get a death scene.
It was hard to tell. I
with
looked,
all the
see her.
screen.
Where was she?
I even looked again and I was like, I don't think that was
No.
her. Yeah. So with all the screen time she got this season, she didn't even
There
get
might be a
death scene.
missing. There might be a missing scene where she went with Moff Gideon because he had two stormtroopers in front of the cell. And maybe
she
he
did
took her with him, and
something
he said,
Yeah.
"You go do this," and
Could be. Yep.
if I get captured, I want you out there to get our plan B in place or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. So they
think
basically
she could
take
show
out
up
everybody on the bridge, and meanwhile, we get Din dragging Giancarlo Esposito to the bridge. They all meet up, and then the first inkling that we get that something is wrong is the look on Bo-Katan's face when she sees that the Mandalorian has has Moff Gideon in shackles and is wielding the Darksaber. Now at this point,
Which how badass was that?
That was great. But Moff Gideon
Finally
shifts,
holding the Darksaber was super cool.
Yeah, Moff Gideon shifts now from being the evil Imperial to the show's narrator for the rest of the episode. as he very comically to us anyway narrates exactly what happens for the rest of the episode pretty much. But he's
not the guy. He's not the friend you want to hang around with. He just spoil everything. He doesn't believe in spoilers. He just spoils everything with glee.
And he does it very sarcastically and with ill intent.
Yes, he loves it.
Yeah, so Bo-Katan has this look on her face and is you almost expect her to say, bruh.
I thought we covered this.
I thought we talked about this.
Yeah.
And so, Gideon explains, it's like, yeah, see, you bested me in combat, so now this is yours to wield, no one else's. She has now, if she wants it, she has to beat you in single combat, because, and I love how he said it, I'm sure I'm going to misquote it, but the gist is, it's not just the fact that you have it, it's the story.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you took it through combat. Anybody can just wield it. That's when he basically recanted his earlier stories. Like, Blade has no power. It's how you got it. That's what.
And I want to point out again, this could be taken in as another shot across the bow of the whole lightsaber thing.
Mm-hmm.
Of the lightsaber holds no power. It's the story of the
Right.
lightsaber that holds the power.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean? If you apply this dialogue to the concept of Star Wars and where it's gone and everything
Mm-hmm.
like that, there could be, they could be using this narrator character to deliver yet another message, because repeatedly in this episode and the one before and others before, they drive home concepts that seem to be counter to what the sequel trilogy built their concepts on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it's almost like they're saying, look, we were doing this before the sequel trilogy, and these rules have stayed in place, and we're reaffirming them. And
yeah. Especially like you were saying that we enjoyed so much on the Jedi episode when we talk about the definition of the Force. You know, not once
Yeah.
was midichlorians mentioned. It was all about it being
It was the
a
mysticism.
force created by all living things, surround us, binds us, etc. You know, and you're right. So reaffirming those sort of tenets, I think, has been very important to the resurgence of this love of Star Wars that Mandalorians brought back around. You know,
And again,
I
and again, they emphasize
Uh-huh.
training and character is
Training, yeah.
important.
Right, exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. Not just oh, you're
But
magical.
I thought that was
born
an
with it.
interesting line when he said it's not whatever he said. It's not the saber, it's the story.
It's the story.
And
Yeah.
again, that could be what a brilliant line in a
Mhm.
lot of different ways, and that could be a bumper sticker. And somebody should have put that in front of certain people years ago.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That
So,
would've been
in my
nice.
opinion, it's just my opinion.
No,
Don't mean to rile anybody out there. It's just my opinion.
Absolutely. So at this point, we have an alert goes off, and we've got the cruiser is about to be boarded. And what it is the return of all the dark troopers that got blasted out into space. They finally figured out how to turn on their accelerators.
And let me ask a question.
they've
Why
now
didn't they
come
move the
back.
ship? Why didn't they just move the ship? They were on the bridge. There was no
Oh,
dialogue
you mean
about.
I don't know. It looked like it happened pretty quick. I mean,
Did they just execute all the pilots and then they didn't know how to fly it?
I mean, I don't think so. I think honestly, to me, at least from watching it, it all happened pretty quick. They're wrapped up in this conversation, and they've got Moff Gideon here, and they're all distracted by that. And all of a sudden, it's like this klaxon goes off, and they look at it, and literally, they're already basically flying into the ship. So it's, to me, it's like they didn't have time to do anything.
Yeah. I guess they thought the dark troopers were still captured in their hold or whatever.
Well, yeah, they wouldn't even known on the bridge.
Right, that's actually, that's a really good point. You're right. Yeah, Bo-Katan and them, they wouldn't have.
But I also wonder, why didn't Gideon send out a distress signal to his other forces and stuff and have people showing up?
Well, maybe he did. They're just not there yet.
Yeah.
They just didn't get there in time.
Gideon's just not real competent when it comes down to it. He's, from his very intro, he's done a lot of things that made no sense whatsoever. So
very true, very true.
Yeah, I give him the benefit of the doubt because it's, it's hard to write these plots where they make sense. Somebody has to, logic has to bend somewhere. And unfortunately,
right. No,
it's been him
agreed.
a few times.
Okay, so
I just want to see a villain win for once. I know
so
it's
so the dark troopers arrive back on the ship, and they start heading obviously straight for the bridge. They close down the blast doors, lock everything down, but they immediately just start trying to punch their way right through these blast doors, and they're actually being quite successful at it. And then we get more great narration from Gideon saying, basically, when this fight is over, everyone here is going to be dead except for me and the child.
I'm really shocked nobody ever just kicked him in the face to shut him up, because he just went on and on. He's like the only one allowed to speak, and he just he makes people believe he's in charge, even though he's on the floor and shackled. Yeah.
Right.
He's like, unless you haven't been paying attention, they'll allow me to educate you on what's happening. It's like, shut up, dude. You're about to face off against the dark troopers. It's like, oh, thank you.
Thanks for that. So meanwhile, we get the anticipation of them coming through the doors. Everybody's got their blasters leveled at the door. And then in the background, through the window, we see a lone X-Wing fighter pass by. Oh, X-Wing.
Oh my God.
One X-Wing? Great.
And this is also accentuated by Cara Dune saying, "Oh, one X-Wing? Ooh, we're saved." Very sarcastically. Like, what's one X-Wing gonna do? So this is our first inkling as what's about to happen. Meanwhile, we see the security cameras showing the X-Wing landing in the bay, and then we see a robed figure jump out of this. Meanwhile, the dark troopers are still pounding away. Well, after a moment, they stop, and they immediately turn around, and they start to head back a different direction. And okay, We just have to say it now. It's Luke Skywalker.
It is Luke Skywalker.
It is the return of Luke Skywalker to Star Wars. Our Luke, the way Gundark said it over and over
He's
again on the
my
reaction
Luke.
video. This is my Luke.
This is my Luke.
This
dude.
is my Luke.
That was my Luke. I know. Okay. That was my Luke.
Yep. And he looked a
He
lot
even
like
has the
that.
same soulless eyes. Yeah.
The same soulless eyes.
Vacant stare of the Jedi.
That's why I was going to change my my prediction because the name, The Rescue. I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
Oh my gosh. There's no way. There's no way.
Is it a green saber though, or is it like one of his apprentices or something? They actually went there.
Oh my gosh, they did.
Oh, it's my
What in the... They can
All his
stare.
life as he looked away, glassy-eyed. Never seen
Soulless
in front of
eyes.
him. Yoda's a pirate now. Never
Soulless
seen
they
what's
are.
in front of him.
Soulless they are.
Okay, I gotta ask you guys. When did you know that it was Luke? When did you know that it was Luke?
Greedo?
This is complicated because I didn't know, but I had an extremely strong suspicion, just like I said before, from the title. Because it just
I
flipped the
didn't have
switch.
that.
I
definitely
didn't get that either.
And I had said from the beginning when as soon as Ahsoka said she's going to call to a Jedi, and if a Jedi hears a Jedi will answer. I think in our reaction video I said, is she talking about Luke?
Right.
Yeah.
We mentioned the
Because-
possibility of it being Luke, but I think we kind of
Yeah.
immediately discounted it just
Because it
thinking
makes perfect
they weren't
sense.
going to go. They weren't going to
Yeah.
go that
Yeah.
direction with the show.
Yeah.
Then you
Because
immediately
I was all
say-
hot and heavy about Ezra, you know.
Yeah,
thinking
exactly. Then you're immediately saying, well, it's Ahsoka saying it, so all bets are off on all the,
Right.
expanded media universe of Star Wars. Could be the guy from the video game, who was left over.
Right.
There's a million Jedi still out there. Unfortunately, Yoda was wrong.
Yeah.
But no, when the title came up was when it flipped the switch, and I was pretty certain that like my initial things came back.
Even then, you didn't want to accept it because in our reaction video, you were saying, could that be? No, that couldn't be him.
Yeah, that couldn't be.
It is Luke Skywalker.
there's the whole thing of knowing and then confronting your disbelief you're faced with, which I was like Luke with the X-wing. I don't believe it.
I don't believe it. Yeah.
No, it was just very, even knowing if someone had told me, if I had figured it out, I still wouldn't have had the confidence. And then seeing it happening was so surreal.
Yeah.
Because the moment I knew for sure, I was still, well, I can't say for sure, but it was another nail in the coffin, was that close-up of the X-Wing docking, and it was a blue astromech in the back, which jumped out at me the first. I have this brand new ginormous TV, and and it really, I was able to see that detail, and I think I said in our reaction video, is that R2 there?
Yeah, you did.
But I still, it was so fast, and you just can't imagine that being the truth, even though the setup is so perfect.
When you said that, it tipped me off. It's like, when the X-Wing arrived, I thought, what is this, just somebody from the Republic showing up? Is it one of those policemen or something? What's going on? It didn't register with me that this is at least the Jedi that was called.
Right.
And an X-Wing, is probably going to be Luke. It didn't register until you said, was that R2 in the back? And then suddenly... but still, I couldn't accept it. I was just screaming out, it is the Jedi. It is the Jedi. I know it's the Jedi, but I couldn't. In my heart, I knew it was him, but I still could not accept it.
Gundark, trust me, you knew it was him because I could tell by your reaction.
Yes.
You were literally transported out of that was an out-of-body experience for you, I think,
based
on your reaction.
I think when I really accepted it was when, not even with the green lightsaber, but when I saw the black glove wielding the lightsaber, I thought that, okay, this is Luke. And that's the point where Greedo was still like, could that be Luke Skywalker? Like, this is Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, I was already like,
Well,
freaking
Star
obvious.
Wars.
The way my mind works is that I reject the obvious a lot of times, expecting them to pull a fast one.
Yeah.
And
See,
so
yeah, but in
I
my
was
head,
still
I was
trying to think
thinking,
ahead, like, okay, if it isn't Luke, I was accepting it was Luke, but I was like, if it isn't him, there's still a
Who
chance
else
it
could
isn't
it
him.
be?
Who
Yeah.
are they setting us up with? You know, that could be a Luke fanboy or a Luke's apprentice. Yeah, the glove was, but honestly, at the moment, I didn't notice that it was one glove. You know, I it could have been a person wearing X-wing pilot gloves, both of them. So anyway, but no, when I saw the green saber, it was confirmed, just like for everyone else. I was,
yeah,
but then my mind was skipping ahead, trying to outguess these guys, you know, do
Yeah.
the show, which was a mistake. But you know, just because I was overwhelmed, honestly, you know, it's like it was very overwhelming. It was so awesome without spoilers. I mean, so awesome
Yeah.
to not know what's coming and to figure it out and to say, is this really happening? And I think that's what we kept expressing was like, is this really where
really
they're
happening?
going?
And I have to say that long sequence where he is working his way to the bridge, the tension of that as you're trying to accept who it
Yeah.
is, you know, when you and before and you're wondering, okay, where are they going to go with this? Are we actually going to see him? Is he going to speak? What
Yeah.
will this mean for the Mandalorian and for Grogu
Right.
with him arriving?
I literally thought the Mandalorian might just shove the kid out the door and close the door. And we never see Luke.
It was terrifying. I mean,
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to
progress
say. Was the whole
terrifying.
setup for the scene was like the end of Blake 7 for me. Like they drew out them staring at the door and their impending doom for several shots.
Yeah.
Showed everybody's reaction to it, and everybody kind of accepting death. You know, like Bo-Katan just shakes her head once and puts her helmet on and draws her things like, I'm going out like the Alamo, you know, because she can't think of how this is gonna end well for them.
Yeah.
So anyway, but those establishing shots, there's grim music, there's it's very fatalistic, like we're in a last stand.
Right.
And then once the Jedi arrives, they are still on pins and needles. They're still afraid of not everybody there is on the same page with the Jedi.
Not everybody's convinced that, not everybody's
Mm.
convinced that this is somebody that's
and
there
our
to help
narrator
them.
Moff Gideon, that's the first time we see him
Freaks.
shaken. Yeah.
He freaks.
He's looking,
His
his eyes are rolling in
performance
his
is one,
head.
his eyes
He's looking
begin to
for
shake
some, he's
and-
like, I can't think of anything else to do. All this ends bad for me, you know.
Yeah.
He's thinking ahead like he always is. And
Well, you got to think he knows the importance of the Force. I mean, that's what he's been struggling to get. And now he knows the Force is coming for his ass, you know. So, I
Literally
mean,
his
he's like,
ass.
I mean,
other parts will be dealt with later. But he has kind of become our narrator, telling us what's going on, and the characters in that bridge are listening to him, whether they know it or not. Every time he says something, it's coming true, and they're listening to him. He's dictating the terms, emotional terms, and so when we see his face, he's not talking anymore because he's
suddenly gone
dumb,
silent.
and so he's reflecting the terror I think that some of the other characters are feeling too. It was great. It was so well done. It really was.
Yeah.
Oh, tremendous. So we get basically the resolution of Luke, making his way to the bridge, taking out in amazing fashion all these dark troopers. And my personal favorite was the final one that he took out, where he literally crumpled him like a piece of paper with the Force just doing that at him, and the thing literally just and it was even like firing wildly off to the side, and he was just crumpling it and throwing it into the ground. That was amazing. So
now that was a replica of what the Rogue One, Darth Vader's progress through the hallway.
Right, it was a very similar scene. I thought that was great. Kind of a nice parallel scene with Vader, and then of course now we see Luke, his son, doing very much the same thing. So now, to you guys' point, not everybody's convinced that this, saber wielding lunatic is there to help them, except for Din. Because Din knows, okay, I think he's already put it together at this point. He's like, there's a Jedi coming for Grogu because he was communing with someone at the Seeing Stone. So, he's the only one saying, open the door, and nobody else is like, are you sure about that? So meanwhile, right about the same time is when Gideon completely loses it. He is earlier. He's hidden a blaster has fallen next to him. He's hidden it with his cape. Well, now he grabs it, tries to take out not only Bo-Katan, but it just bounces off for Beskar. Then he tries to take out the child, but he's
Yeah.
also saved by a diving Din Djarin.
Now, why is he going for the child? What do you guys make of that? I mean, he had several shots there. He could have taken down the other people that were armed.
If I can't have him, nobody can. I don't know. Because think about it, his very next move after failing to do that is to try and kill himself.
Yes.
The next thing he does is he puts the blaster to his own face, and then they, of course, Cara Dune disarms him and knocks him out.
I think maybe he sees the child going with a Jedi, and that may mean the end of the Imperial. Yeah.
Right.
They don't want any more Jedi around.
Yeah, exactly.
And he knows the child. They never elaborate. The child is some kind of power, represents some kind of power that can restore order. For the other side, it might restore order too, or it might just be, just for whatever reason, it's a disaster for the child to go with a Jedi. So he, at that point, he's already got these contingencies in his mind, and that's probably why he has the blaster in the first place, is not to try to escape, but to try to do his objectives that he sees coming. I think he shot Bo-Katan because Bo-Katan was kind of in the way. Like he cleared her out of the way and then opened up on the child. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, the implication is that he knows that he's been told there's a bigger picture. Is the implication. Why was he willing to kill himself? And Cara Dune says, he knows a lot.
Information.
He's not just protecting old Imperial information. It's something new.
Right. It's more of this new fanaticism that we've seen.
And it's the new phase. They have something they're cooking up that has to do with the child and has to do with restoring order and their only hope for ending up on top out of all this. And I think it is more of a case of robbing his enemies of any chance to get the upper hand by taking himself out. It just makes sense to him. Like, I'm going to spite them by not allowing them to get at the information I have. And killing the child is just a way to, like you said, it's a way to not deny them what they want. But I think there's more to it. I mean, he was very urgent. He unloaded that gun.
Three times, I think.
He the way he portrayed that was very much a priority at that point to take the child out and not let it fall into the hands of the Jedi. So, he's a smart guy. He knows something's coming that's bad for them.
So now we get to basically the final denouement of the episode. Basically, we get them opening the door. We see this again. We still don't know. We haven't gotten confirmation yet of who this is. He walks to the door and then removes his hood, and it is Luke Skywalker, CGI'd, of course, because this is 7 years or whatever after Return of the Jedi. And it's just, I mean, it was accomplished what we already knew. And what can you say? Yeah, it's just my mind was so blown at this point that they're really doing this. It's like, that's what the voice in my head kept telling me. It's like, they're really doing this.
Yeah, this is really happening.
They really went to Luke Skywalker. It's not Kanan. It's not Ezra. It's not some random character. They went Luke Skywalker on this, and it's just unbelievable. So,
the way they built to that unveiling was incredible too.
It did, everything about it was well done. It was fantastic. I mean, I can't complain about any of the setup or any of the way they carried anything out here.
On that point of you saying that you couldn't believe that that they've gone this far. If I remember right, back in our previous episodes where we were speculating what Jedi would come for Baby Grogu after the Ahsoka episode, we were pretty much in denial that it could be Luke. At most, I think we said if Luke is shown, it will be like in a silhouette in the background. We'll never see his face.
It would make more sense for someone to bring the child to him, and you see them, in the typical Star Wars landscape shot where they're united.
I think Greedo even said, I hope they don't go the CGI route, to have Luke show up and do a CGI Luke. But this worked for me entirely, and I had agreed originally. I thought it would be Mace Windu.
Yeah, I was convinced it was going to be Mace. Yeah,
but I thought this worked, even with the CGI, and even though it was kind of clunky as all CGI replicas of humans still are. Yeah, McClunky. I don't know if we'll ever master that technology. It still worked beautifully, and the introduction of him over that long period, and the shot behind Greedo's head there of him appearing, whenever the door opens, all of that was just such a wonderful buildup. And it's a brief conversation too. Maybe if it didn't imply he's going to be a recurring character or a major character or anything in The Mandalorian coming up. So it may be suitable then to use CGI, like the appearance of Princess Leia at the end of Rogue One.
Right.
I think worked, even though it was McClunky CGI too for her face. It was appropriate in that moment. She was it was one important cameo that connected that back to the overall Star Wars mythos. So it worked for me. I know that a lot of people were aggravated online by the
I don't care. It worked for me on so many levels. I mean, I'm able to suspend my disbelief for things like this. It's, we're used to this type of, we've been through a Rogue One. That was, 5 years ago now. And we've moved past that. I have no problem with Tarkin. I have no problem with the way they did Princess Leia in there. I guess maybe there's just part of me that wants to see that so bad that I'm okay with them doing the CGI. Because there's a lot of resentment about that kind of stuff out there. Why don't they just recast it? Just to have another actor portraying that character. Why does it have to be this clunky looking CGI? I just don't see it as clunky. Yeah, I know. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's not perfect. I know it's CGI. We all know it's CGI. It's not like, oh, whoa, I thought Peter Cushing died. It wasn't one of those kind of things. So I have no problem with the way they did the CGI. I prefer that to them recasting the character.
I think so too. It wouldn't have had the emotional impact that this had if there had been another actor appearing in that role at the end that we have to get used to within a few seconds.
Agreed. That's the thing.
And interrupting the emotional climax of the whole season or the whole series so far. Yeah.
Agreed.
Oh my God.
The theme music.
Are you a Jedi? I am.
What do you think? Are you CGI? Sorta.
Come, little one.
Agreed.
So I thought it was a good choice.
So basically we get Luke addressing the situation, why he's there. We get Din looking down at Grogu, who's kind of sitting in the chair, kind of looking at the situation. He's kind of freaked out, and Luke explains, basically, Din says, I don't think he wants to go with you, and Luke explains, well, he's looking for your approval, because of this bond you have. He's looking for you to tell him it's okay. And so then we get into the really super emotional aspect of this episode when Din picks up Grogu, and he's looking at him and holding him and telling him, you have to go, and this is your destiny. And then what I was so hoping happened is right there behind Greedo, is he's got to take off his mask. He has to take off the helmet. And he does. He takes off the helmet. Grogu reaches up. We get the famous shot of him touching his face. The tears flow, not only from the characters, but from the viewers. Except Greedo. He had his tear ducts removed years ago.
I hate sand.
Yeah, it's coarse and it gets everywhere.
I cry
It gets
sand.
everywhere.
I'll see you again. I'll see you. I promise.
Oh, God.
They're making grown men cry everywhere. Probably the first person that's ever touched his face.
Yeah.
All right, pal.
Since his parents, anyway.
Don't be afraid.
So we get Din telling Grogu, we will see each other again. This is not the end of our story, is basically the message he's getting across. And then he sets him down on the floor to allow him to walk over to Luke on his own, and we get the last shot of him sort of grabbing Mando's leg and looking up at him, kind of like we saw in season 1.
Oh yeah, they just have to drench your last emotional chord.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like they
It's
haven't
like the
gone
end of
far
E.T.
enough.
and the Champ and a bunch of movies from the 70s and 80s all put together.
Yeah, exactly. So
But at that moment, that's when R2 comes in.
I was just about to say, then we get R2.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
think then not only is that an emotional high for us, but it's important in that moment, because even though both Grogu and Din have recognized that Grogu has to go with Luke, with this Jedi, the dude is a guy in black that they have just witnessed do this terrifying
destroying.
massacre.
Yeah.
And Grogu, even though he knows he's got to go, he sets him down. He still wants to stay with his daddy.
Mhm.
And at that point, you got to have a lightning, childlike influence show up. And I love how when R2 rolls in, it's like everybody becomes a kid again.
Oh man, yeah.
And Grogu connects with him as a kid,
Absolutely.
and you see that kind of, that there's the child will have other ways that he will interact with his new family that he's going to, that makes it easier for us maybe and for Din to give him up to the Jedi. So it was real important, I thought, that R2 entered at that moment,
right?
Kind of convince us that it's
R2 humanizes Luke too in that moment.
He does.
Shows that
Yeah.
Luke is a force for good. R2 is a symbol of hope and carrying hope and all of that stuff, and it just naturally comes through. But
let me get your take on this. Let me get your take on this. Okay, so this is one of the things I took away from that scene, and this may be something we'll get to. It may just be me putting meaning where there is none, but the way R2 reacts to Grogu is almost like he recognizes him.
That may be, yeah.
Because he was like very excited. He wasn't just like, okay, whoa, this is what we came for. He was just like literally like the high pitched, chirps and beeps that he was doing was like, oh my gosh, it's my old buddy.
It could be a Yoda reaction too.
Yeah. Oh, it could be.
Oh,
could
yeah.
be.
He
That he
could
recognized the species from Yoda. Yeah, it could be that. Exactly. But
he's excited, like, wow, look, it's
he's reacting like he's
baby
seeing
Yoda.
A friend,
Yeah,
and maybe it was the Yoda aspect. I don't know. Well, maybe.
And I
we'll
wondered about
out.
Grogu too, if Grogu, because Grogu
Maybe
is instantly put at ease and goes with Luke after that, and maybe he remembers that. Which some people have made jokes about. Shouldn't Grogu be having PTSD when he sees a guy wielding a lightsaber in a cloak, dark cloak, coming down a corridor?
So that basically wraps up the regular episode. The last shot we get is, of course, Luke picks up Grogu and delivers the line we all know is coming, "May the Force be with you," and he walks off to the elevator, and the last shot we get is the R2, Luke, and holding Grogu, and that's where the episode ends.
I want to say something about that last little sequence.
Sure.
I loved the use of cross-cutting in that last sequence, because this is a moment when the legend of Star Wars, our main hero from the original trilogy, has re-entered. And yet the camera keeps us focused throughout on the emotional core of this series, the relationship between Grogu and the Mandalorian. When you got the mask come off, and I think I remember telling you guys back in the first season when we were talking about first season episodes, so many people complaining, Pedro Pascal has been cast in this role and he's always behind a mask. When is he going to take off the mask? When will it come off? And I said, there's a reason for him to remain in that mask. It's part of his evolution, to become more human. And if they work it right, when the mask comes off, the payoff is going to be tremendous. And I was afraid they wouldn't be able to do that, but they did. Mean, when the last episode, when it came off, it was so beautifully associated with the thematics of the overall episode and the story arc of the character. And then in this moment, when he finally connects with the baby, that I think Greedo said when he touched his face, that's probably the first other person ever to touch his face since the time he was a child, and his parents.
Since he basically, his parents were killed.
Yeah, that is such a beautiful moment, close-up shots of the two of them. Then he gives the baby to Luke, and as Luke is carrying him away, we're cross-cutting between close-ups of Grogu and close-ups of Mando watching him go. Grogu looking over Luke's shoulder as he's being taken away from his daddy, and Mando looking at him and nodding a kind of reassurance while tears are in his eyes. It was so phenomenally beautiful.
So well
as an
done.
emotional payoff of that relationship. And I know that there are people that are aggravated, that baby Grogu went with the Jedi, that he left Mando, that felt that he needed to stay with Mando. And originally we were arguing that. Do you remember? We were saying
I still think they set it
time.
up that way. That there was foreshadowing there that it would be the wrong move,
Yeah. And I don't feel when we got to the end of it felt totally right. And it felt
It was
like
Shakespearean. It was the
Yes.
restorer of order. Luke was the
Yes.
restorer of order who is never plays a large part in the Shakespearean plays, but comes in and makes a statement at the end. It was like a series finale, really, because
right, it really was. It had that
the
feel.
series started with these two characters coming together and then figuring out what to do with him, and then the contest over his fate, and then he's delivered to where he's supposed to be at the end. And the main character is completely deconstructed by the end. He's left without his mask, without his ship. He's no longer a soulless bounty hunter, even really. He hasn't done anything for money in the whole season,
Right. Once he met the child, it's been his focus.
So, and now he's inherited his people's symbol of power without even intending to, just by doing the right thing, just by showing up and doing the right thing. It's been handed to him. And he doesn't want it because he's still trying to cling to his ideas of what he used to be. But it's become obvious that he's a completely different person now. And what I saw in that shot that Pedro Pascal did so well was a very strong person, but a person completely devastated and just broken down.
Absolutely.
I mean, he has nothing left that he wants. He's giving away the last thing that he wanted to keep close to himself.
Yep.
And he's completely vulnerable. His face is unmasked. And so I think it was necessary and brilliant. I never really saw that coming until the last few episodes. I don't think it was a reaction to all the rumors and everything we got of accelerating that. I just think it's too well done for that to be the case.
No.
But
this wasn't a
was
last minute decision.
No. It was very much built up to and everything. But it clears the decks for whatever they want to do next. And with that character, you could just have an episodal series that just one-off adventures every week with the child and the Mandalorian and be Lone Wolf and Cub. Or you could tip your hat to that and say that was our inspiration, but we're going to go further. And I think they've made the commitment now to go further with both characters. And it'll be very interesting. I think the greatest challenge is the child. If they're going to bring the child back, which the decision could be on the table to write him out. Yeah, how will he be different? How do you write a character that has been what he's been and then make him more self-aware, more powerful, more in control? The enigma has driven so much of the show, that now you've got to rebuild both of those identities. And bold move, because you could just keep milking the blue cow, but beautifully done. And I love the shots of all the characters standing there like they've won, but there's no victory on any of them. They're all very conflicted about what's going on. And there's a sense of fate hanging in the balance and everything. And Shakespeare plays are like that, because the restorer of order usually comes in when there's been chaos, and when there's been a tragedy. I shouldn't even bring this stuff up, but that's kind of the feel it gave me, was these characters are kind of like at the end of Hamlet with the bodies laying around. And Luke walks in and says, it's okay. There's greater things at work here than you understand. And I can't explain it to you because you wouldn't get it, but everything is moving back in the direction it's supposed to be. But you're left still with devastation, but it's cathartic. And there's a release of emotions there, which this show has been in more short supply of over its run. It's not an emotional show. It's more of a fun show. So they didn't dwell on it. They didn't wring it out, even though there was some shots of the child, and things like that. Really, the child's just too cute. What are you going to do? You know? And to me, the shot that was meaningful for the child was not the cute shots. It was not the heartbreaking shot. You know, they didn't make him cry like a goat or anything when he's being separated. It was the shot of his eyes when Din took the helmet off, because, and the soundtrack accompanied it of like, this is a moment of kind of wonder, like the child is seeing the Mandalorian's face, his father's face, for the first time. And there's some uncertainty there, but I think we project what we want to see sometimes, but honestly, the puppetry is so freaking amazing. How do they tell them get this emotion, and they do it?
And they
do
it.
But the child's a real character, just like Yoda in that moment. And his eyes are going over his dad's face, and you see like sadness that they're separating, but also acceptance. It's like there might be an insecurity there of like, this is who I really am. You know, can you accept me? And you know, I got from that moment that the child's eyes were like, and his expression was like, you know, he accepted him in that moment, and they understood each other for the first time, really. You know, so that was just brilliant.
Can I say something about the acceptance of Luke taking him away? You know, why it's important that it's Luke and it wasn't Mace Windu or Ezra Bridger, you know, some of the other Jedi that we had speculated on, because we had all been kind of resistant against it being Luke, you know, from the beginning. I think that ultimately had to be the choice. And I go back to his progress through the ship and the massacre, you know, the long massacre as he gets to the bridge. Again, the great use of cross-cutting, where they're cross-cutting from shots of him doing those things primarily to shots of the Mandalorian and the child watching him on the view screen, and then looking at each other. And they keep going back, looking at him, looking at each other, and then Grogu starts touching the view screen. And I think part of what's going on there is not just that Grogu is connecting to this fellow Jedi or fellow Force user, whatever, that he knows is coming for him, but I think there's kind of a realization going on there that they're seeing what Grogu could be capable of and why he needs to go with this person that's coming, because the power that he has could be incredibly deadly and destructive, and he needs help, he needs training. Luke emphasizes that in the line where he says that the child, I would protect the child with my life, but he is never going to be safe until he's able to control his abilities, you know. So he's going to have to go with this person, and that whole long sequence just shows why that's needed. You know, that he needs this type of training to prevent him from going down the dark path. And the parallels between Luke and Vader and the corridor walk Vader in Rogue One really emphasizes that. You know, Luke has those same abilities, but he is using them to achieve a totally different objective, and maybe he can lead Grogu in that right path. And it's important that it's Luke too, I think, rather than Mace Windu or one of the others, because this is not the Luke that we just recently saw of The Last Jedi. It's not the older, disillusioned Luke who focuses solely on the failures of the Jedi Order. It's the immediately post Return of the Jedi Luke, who is the person whose personal compassion and love for his father redeemed one of the most evil and lost people in the galaxy and revitalized the Jedi Order when the old school Jedi were not able to do that. The Luke who achieved that through compassion. You know, so I think it's really vitally important that they emphasize that that's the value of this whole show, is humanizing compassion. Power can be humanized by personal compassion and paying attention to the personal costs of the exercise of power. And Luke is one of the few great Jedi to really have done that, you know, and really saved everything at the end of Return of the Jedi through that devotion to love for others. So he seems like he was the right one when I finally accepted that it was him coming down the corridor to get baby Grogu. Up until that point, I was like, I don't want Grogu to go with whatever Jedi comes. And when I finally realized it was him, I'm like, this is right. Of all the Jedi, this is the one that I think that I can give him up to, you know, that I would be willing to give him up to. Maybe Yoda, but but definitely.
No, you're right, and that's what I mentioned, the foreshadowing, that it might not be the right move to go with the Jedi. I think that there's a large part of the audience that doesn't want to see the child out of the show and doesn't want to see more specifically that moment where they're separated, um, for sentimental reasons or whatever. And so, yeah, Luke is the only character that we all trust from that time period that can show up, and we have a rock solid assurance. And even though he's CGI'd, and so there's a little bit of a wall there where we don't fully, quite 100% connect with the Luke of old, R2 being there and all of the accoutrements and everything. It's weird that a robot can humanize you, but it does. And so, yeah, those people that are traumatized by this moment, you're really supposed to enjoy it. It's a story. It's sad, but you're also supposed to enjoy it. So knowing that the child is going with someone that we all idolize, as a hero, and that we know is rock solid, and that
we trust.
He's already been through the crucible, and his character has been chosen. He's a Jedi. I mean, if anybody's a Jedi, it's him. He nobody told him. He knew in his moment that's what he had become. And so Ahsoka, you can tell, even though they never address it, might still be conflicted. Just in Rosario Dawson's acting and everything, she seems distant from the concept still, and hesitant to take on that mantle. She doesn't want responsibility for that much of the future. And it's obvious at this point in time, Luke is the future of the Jedi and the vision of the Force that's taken hold right now. There's also a conflict there of what Moff Gideon wanted the child for and what Luke will do with the child, which Luke will empower the child and or Grogu and continue what the masters tried to do before and give him a safe space and allow him to become himself, whereas Moff Gideon wants to manipulate him for power. And there might even be an implication of Moff Gideon said the abilities of the child can restore order. There's like a decision of fate going on here. And the child, when he's reaching through the screen with Luke, I think he sees beyond the power that's being displayed on the screen. He's not necessarily, I don't think the child is dwelling on that. The child is dwelling on the heart, of the connection that he feels, that he knows this person is a force for good. And he has resisted, Gideon, Moff Gideon at every turn because it's obvious. We got that with the shot with the client when they were first separated and he reached out towards the Mandalorian, kind of crying like, I don't want them to take me. You're seeing the opposite of that here. And so anyway, I think there's a lot of cool stuff there. And you're right, absolutely right, that choosing Luke, as difficult as it must have been to do, as chancy, as risky as it could have been. Some people said they played it safe. I think it was kind of a risk. But story-wise, if you're going to do this right now, he was the right choice, because we would be devastated for a whole year, wondering what happened to if he went with just about anybody else. Maybe Ahsoka. Ahsoka would have been very cool, and enough people trust her. But you've also got Star Wars fans out there that never saw Clone Wars and then only know Ahsoka from these type of things. Luke is a universally known factor, for years and years. And so, I agree with you 100% there.
Absolutely. All right. So before the episode wraps up, we get our first, I believe it's the first end credit scene. Post-credit scene from Mandalorian, which obviously Star Wars is not something that's known for post-credit scenes, but we finally get one, and it's necessary for what they had to do, because obviously this would have been out of place to show this anywhere else in the episode. But we basically get we're back on Tatooine. We have Jabba's palace, in fact, where Bib Fortuna has set up shop in after the demise of Jabba in Return of the Jedi. So Bib Fortuna's big man on campus, and so then we first thing we see is Fennec Shan walking down the stairs there, blasting away everybody. She gets down and literally just decimates the whole place, takes out everybody that's there, frees the slave girl, the Twi'lek slave girl, and she runs off. And then we get, of course, Boba makes his appearance after, Fennec does the dirty work. He shows up, and in typical Boba fashion, Bib Fortuna immediately starts sputtering like, "Oh, Boba, wow, cool. I thought you were dead. I heard these rumors. boom, just blows him away without saying a word.
Throws his body off the throne with just complete disdain.
Yeah, just complete disdain. Just throws his, it's like he's just
Even
like
though
throwing the laundry down, you know?
We have to assume Bib built that throne or had it built.
Well, yeah, because
It existed
Jabba didn't
before.
sit on it. Yeah.
Like, he probably just got it delivered the day before after years of waiting for it.
And I will stand by this. You guys, I know, have watched this more than once, but when the blasting starts, when Phoenix, he says McClunky.
He does, yeah.
He says McClunky.
He does.
I didn't pick up on that.
Yes, he says something, and then like McClunky, like that, and they all go running off to see who's blasting. Because the first time I was like, I think if you watch the reaction video, I think I even say that I was like, did he just say McClunky?
He hasn't learned that it usually bounces back on the person saying McClunky.
Right.
It's never a good thing to say. You can think it, but don't ever say it out loud.
So now we've got a second McClunky in Star Wars.
I think there's another one too. I think they used it in the Mandalorian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't remember where, but I think it's been used before.
So now we get, Boba walks up, just disdainfully throws the dead body of Bib Fortuna to the ground, and stacks his, blaster and just literally sits on the throne like a king. And meanwhile, in the background, Fennec's gone around and she's got this huge bottle of some sort of liquor and she's sitting on the edge of it just chugging away. And I'm like, okay, they've just made a statement. And then we get the final shot of Book of Boba coming December 2021. So that's,
I like too how Boba sat in the throne and then he just kind of looked around.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I'm just gonna sit here and take in the view for a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you're king of the cellar, man. I mean, it doesn't look any different from there. But that was still a cool thing. He's just like,
that was great. Yeah.
It feels better than I thought it would.
Yeah.
So is that a new television series?
Well, that's what I wanted to run by you guys. Do we think it's a new series, or do we think that's season 3 of The Mandalorian?
Next season, I don't know.
Because season 3 of The Mandalorian is December 2021.
See, because they did not announce this Boba Fett series in the big.
I think they didn't want to spoil it.
I think they didn't want to spoil it, and if in fact it were season 3 of The Mandalorian, there's nothing else to announce because we already know season 3 of The Mandalorian is coming out then.
Yeah.
And this is a good moment just to say kudos to Lucasfilm for not allowing spoilers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have done
so much job.
Such a phenomenal job of not allowing any of these big little things leak, but the big stuff they have kept under wraps. We didn't find out about, Grogu last season. We didn't find out about Luke this season. There's so much.
No, they've gone so far as to miss out on merchandising and everything.
Right.
And not having the child dolls ready to go after that first episode. It was months before that stuff was available.
So they've done a phenomenal job with that.
Yeah.
So let's cut to our ratings, and let's see see if people want to put their money where their mouth is. I'm going to start this time, and I'll say that this was an 11.
You're trying to change the rules now.
Yeah, these go to 11. With respect to Nigel Tufnell of Spinal Tap, these go to 11.
Luke would say, "Use your true rating. You've only forgotten."
If I can't go above a
10 no longer has any meaning for me.
It's an absolute perfect 10. 11. So Gundark, I'm saving Greedo till last.
Me too. You set the precedent by breaking the rules. So 11 10 plus, whatever place 10 plus, you can give above a 10. But I will say I stand by my previous ratings. The Ahsoka episode was a 10 for me.
Absolutely.
It was among the best of Star Wars and the best Mandalorian episode up to this one.
Agreed.
There were excellent episodes. The other 9s and 9.5. Yeah. This was just an outstanding season. And overall, capped off by a just spectacular episode. So 10 plus 11, whatever you want to say for me.
Well, obviously, my participation is no longer required because
we're just
willy-nilly just change everything, just whatever we want to do.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
King Greedo.
Okay, King Greedo, go ahead.
Right. I have to veto all this bullshit. 10 is 10. Come on, guys. You can't go to 11. All right, you can go to 11. I don't care. For me, it is still a 1 to 10 scale, so I'm going to give it a 10. You can all stop hounding me now.
Hey, woo.
And
there's possible.
Yeah. Listen, I said it before, and you gotta. I think I don't know. Well, I'll just say it again. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't like the perfect
Here we go.
episode of television. There's you could go both ways. There's about the Luke thing. I can understand people's disconnect with that actually, but not me. I mean, I friggin' loved it. I will never begrudge. I mean, people say, why does Skywalker have to be like, shut up, just shut up. Give me my moment with Luke, because I waited decades. All I had was the radio shows, and the comic books were terrible. I'm sorry, any comic book fans out there, they were terrible. They didn't give me much. The EU was so scattershot.
It really was.
The plan was all over the place. Everybody was focused on their own characters. Luke was good in that, but the whole the way they redefined the Force, all the different things, it wasn't that organized, and I never fully connected to that. I enjoyed it more than the comics and everything, but I wanted to see Luke back on a screen, and so just F off, with your cynicism, really, because just give us this minute. I had to hear for 2 years how immature I was and everything, because I didn't get exactly what I wanted from The Last Jedi. Nobody reached out with an olive branch and tried to bridge the gap for me. They just said, accept it, shoved it in my face. And so I still haven't accepted it, and F you again. I'm never going to accept it. There's parts of it I accept, but I just, I'm not watching that movie over and over again. It's not part of the Star Wars experience for me, really.
Yeah.
But anyway, this was just a moment, just to give us a moment. It did not break anything. If a Skywalker fits the mold of a character, you need to come in and do it. Let it be a Skywalker. It's fine. Everybody stop. I'm the most cynical and jaded there is, but I just stop. It's like, I think I've said from the beginning, this show is about enjoyment. This show is not, I nitpick it because that is enjoyable for me. I have fun nitpicking things, but I don't blame the show for that. The show's been remarkable. I've said it over and over again. I might give it an episode of 5. What does it matter what I give it? They're doing the right thing over and over and over again, which is making Star Wars fun. And I'm not even so jaded where I don't even know that they knew they needed to do this to win the fans back. I don't know about that, but I'm not sure. But I tend to think that maybe the people who did this felt they needed to do it for themselves, and that guides their decision making for how the fans are going to connect to it. I don't think it breaks anything. It's fine. The characters in The Mandalorian are the side characters. I've said it over and over. They're the side characters witnessing history when they do cross paths with this stuff. They do have agency, but their battles are smaller. They're personal. Yeah, they affect the outcome of things. We never know what Mayfield's shot did for the galaxy when he took out that highly explosive stuff. We don't know what neutralizing Gideon right now and neutralizing the Dark Troopers and bringing, you could say, I've even heard people say, well, Luke kicked so much ass there and he was in God mode. Why were our characters necessary? Which is the old rule of if you can take your main character out and nothing changes, then you've done something wrong with the writing.
Yeah.
But I argue that's not the case, because they were all there for their own reasons. They drew those plot threads together really well. They all had their own personal, smaller quests to go on. And you can criticize the show, but it is a video game. It is. There are quests, side quests, upgrading your armor. That's as deep as it goes. And the deepest emotional connection you have is like an 80s throwback to E.T. or something. So it's a video game with the cutest design ever that engages you emotionally. But we're projecting a lot of that into it, and that's how we have fun with it. That's how we connect with it. The show itself is not that deep. It's just not. And so, just everybody settle down. And I understand there's people invested big time that I just let the reins go on this stuff, and I react to what they show me. And this was just a delight for me personally to see, my hero, my personal hero that I identified with since a young age. From the first quarter of the first movie I saw, Star Wars movie I saw, I identified with this character more than any others. And to have his little moment where he did kind of steal the show, and overshadowed a little bit, but you can't be afraid of that. That's what ruined the sequels for me, was they were afraid. They were afraid that Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia together would make everyone lose their mind and stop caring what was happening with their characters. They failed to recognize that this is all together, and you have to do the first right before you can spring off into the others. And you know, the most criticism I can level at this was that Luke was in God mode. It was a little overkill, but he made it. He took a long time to get through those troopers. And if Luke can't handle one room at a time of dark troopers at this point, in fighting where a Jedi is at his best, you know, I can believe it. It's okay with me. And I wasn't even focused on him in God mode. It was filling, but it didn't fulfill my life to see Luke finally. Luke's not that kind of character. He's just not. He's not about flexing overwhelming force. He always gives his opponents a chance out. He always, you know, says, I don't want to hurt you, you know, and then he hurts them. but he's diminutive. You know, he's a small person. He's not the 80s action hero archetype that he came from. He came up during that time. He's the opposite. He's emotional intelligence. He's thinking. He's reaching out, trying to create connections instead of using the force for destruction. And he had every opportunity to use power for himself, and he rejected it. And so I don't need to see him slaughtering people and stuff. It's very cool to see. I super enjoyed it. But that argument doesn't hold any weight for me, because that's not the essence of the character. The essence of the character is the restorer of order, like I said. And that was the one I was most excited. Sure, it was exciting to see him, but it was more about the reveal. And then, are they really going to go there with Luke and everything for me? Yeah. And so anyway, I don't even know how we start. Well, I started on this, but yeah, just everybody settle down, because the Mandalorian's probably going to go on forever. You know, I mean, the show is really good. The only concern we should have is that they keep it quality. You know, if they can keep it quality, they can tell any story they want to tell.
Right. I don't want them to start cutting corners and just putting out episodes just to put them out.
Yeah, and this is it's going to have arcs. It's going to have moments and decisions that are made that you're not going to agree with, but this one was one that I support, and I don't think it was a cowardly move. It may, in effect, heal a lot of the fan base. It may, in effect, bring a lot of people back. It may, in effect, do a lot of the things that you could be cynical and jaded and say that's why they did it. That's the only reason they did it. Well, I don't think so, because it was done well. If you're just going to do it, we've seen enough of that. You can look anywhere and see heartless productions of things. This was done really well. They had 40 minutes or something to do all this. We said it couldn't be done. Remember, we said there's no way a Jedi is going to show up and do any action
at the end and resolve it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we said it's just impossible. Yep. And
look at what happened.
Yeah. So
exactly.
I know when I'm out of my grade, and I'm out of my grade on this. This was really well done, and I can criticize plot holes. I'm disappointed mostly with Moff Gideon, although he had brilliant moments in this. I'm married to the idea of a great Star Wars villain. I really, really longing. That's my second thing that I want besides a restoration of the characters I love, which I never expected to see, and I'm not sure how in context this is going to land in the big picture of things, but it definitely helps. But I desperately want a brilliant Star Wars villain again. And it's like we talked about, sometimes you just can't top yourself. And I like that they gleefully went into all the aspects of Moff Gideon that I didn't necessarily want to see, but they're there, and he's an incredible character. And I just have to accept that he isn't Thrawn, or he isn't, the most brilliant villain, but they really made the most out of what they could with where they were going to go and everything with him. So anyway.
Well, maybe they'll get there with if they do introduce Thrawn, maybe not even in this series or in another series.
I almost hope they bring a new villain in, because there's so much room for disappointment when you bring in a character like Thrawn.
Already established, yeah.
Yeah, he's so brilliant that he is almost the protagonist in his own world. He has so many fans and so much expectation around him that you cannot bring him in and have him fall on his face immediately.
Right.
Now, you better be prepared for some dark episodes where the bad guys win, because that's the only way to establish their credibility is to show that they've thought this out. And you can have a master strategist and have him come in and be outthought by some, the Aluminum Falcon and teenagers. It just, then he's the emperor again, just
Right.
arrogant with a big hole in
Right.
his plan, So anyway,
all right. Well,
I give it a 10. I give it a 10. If
Okay.
11 is our new thing, I give it 11. That's fine. Whatever you guys want.
whatever you guys want. Wow, he actually said whatever you guys want. Okay.
No, it's one of the best moments of my life, probably. So
Yeah.
what
no,
am I
it was
gonna?
phenomenal.
Am I really gonna? It defies even a rating.
This was the best Star Wars moment that I've experienced in 37 years.
Yeah. And it feels really good to know
Jedi.
that somebody gives a crap about us.
Yeah.
You can call it fan service, you can call it whatever you want. It's like
Yeah.
you said earlier, I don't care.
Right.
I don't care because I've been loyal for decades. I've been a loyal fan for
Right.
decades. When there was no Star Wars, I was willing to go out and put my money out there when they brought something new up, when they gave us a new
Yeah.
product. I've supported it. And all I want is just for those characters that we all love to have, just have their
Yeah.
proper place. They don't,
Right.
they don't have to be
Agreed.
worshipped or anything. Give them good stories. The Last Jedi, it was just the wrong move at the wrong time. You can't sit there and say the story was absolutely terrible on every level necessarily.
Mhm.
It was I think it was just a series of bad decisions, and
I agree.
put in a movie that looked beautiful, but looks are deceiving. At its core, there just wasn't enough going on there story-wise. It was again part of the long weekend, Star Wars long weekend,
Yeah.
where everybody becomes a Jedi and stuff in one
Yeah,
weekend.
exactly. Any final thoughts, Gundark?
I just agreeing with you guys that this was just a highlight of our Star Wars fandom. I'm really glad that we got to experience it together.
Me too. Yeah.
I wish it had been in a
Absolutely.
theater. It was good
Yeah,
for
that
a
would've
movie
been-
theater
that
for
would've been
sure.
I do
tremendous.
too, because
Yeah.
40-something years now of watching these things
Yeah,
together and enjoying
exactly.
them, and a highlight of our mythos that we shared. It was just so much fun to watch this.
Absolutely.
I do have one more final thought. I know
Sure.
I've gone on and on, but I just want to say kudos for not being intimidated by the reaction they're going to get to this whole thing of bringing
Yeah.
Luke in, and kudos for who knows? We don't know. We weren't there in production. How much effort was put into that CGI for Luke and everything? That's going to be the point that's going to draw the most criticism.
Of course.
But I just say screw it. I mean, it was really good. The CGI was really good. It's limited. But if you're a storyteller and they're going to unleash you and say, what story do you want to tell? And we're going to back you up. It's bold to go ahead and do that. And George Lucas set a thing in motion back in the 70s and stuff of he was in legal battles all the time for his intellectual property, for his right to express himself, to his right to control things, for his right to have his own money, to put the director at the end of the movie, the credit at the end of the movie, every single thing he got fought on. But he was, he's one of the least transparent individuals you can think of as an example, but in reality, he's one of the most transparent and most sharing and most, he has his focus on the industry and the technology and pushing that stuff forward. And I think if you're going to shy away from a challenge like CGI, you're not following in that tradition really, which a lot of people don't understand because they want warm, fuzzy Star Wars, a safe spot. That isn't really what Star Wars was. The reason we had Star Wars is because people like Lucas were willing to risk everything. He almost had a heart attack over the first Star Wars. He had to semi-retire and recover.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it cost him. He put everything on the line. And so I don't really want to hear this stuff about, it was too much of a risk or this is about the technology and the heart merged together. And so if you're going to shy away, if you want to tell the story and you're going to shy away because you don't think the technology's there, it's one choice to make, but I admire them for pushing forward. And like you said, Carillion, earlier, it's about suspension of disbelief.
Right.
We grew up in an era where you could see the matte lines on the screen.
Exactly.
Every movie we went to, we were aware of the special effects. They were mind-boggling, like the transformations in Willow and T2 and movies like that, where they began to use those motion and morphing effects and everything. It was mind-boggling to us at the time. We believed it, but we also were aware. We weren't stupid. We knew this wasn't real, but we admired the art of it and that they were pushing this stuff forward at all times. And we were every summer we were gonna see something new, special effects wise. But we were never the type to just ditch the story. We wanted that to be a compliment, not to be the main thing.
Right.
So anyway, all I'm saying is, as weird as it sounds, and some people might think it's a cynical point of view, they're probably going to change this in a few years. You know, they're going to go back and just like they took the watch guy, the guy wearing the watch out of the corridor scene,
Mhm.
the jeans, Captain Jeans or whatever.
Yeah.
They're going, once they come up with a better way. Lucasfilm's never been the one to just let their properties lay there for better or
Right.
worse. I think once they get this stuff even better, they'll go back and redo the Luke facial effects and everything to where I think they will get it to where it's almost flawless at some point.
Mhm.
Anyway, it's all this stuff is a work in progress. This is what people need to understand and judge it on that. And I just say, awesome job, awesome job. I can't say it was perfect. It's the only critique I have of it was his eyes were didn't match his voice.
Yeah.
But
absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved
but
it.
who cares? Yeah, it's storytelling. He was never meant to be in there, and he wasn't going to go around hugging the other characters and stuff. That wasn't his role.
Exactly. No,
He was there to make a statement and to push that Grogu thing either to a conclusion or to its next chapter, and that's what happened. So, and it just made a shitload of us super freaking happy at the same time. So, and what a surprise! This is going to go down as the biggest surprise for me in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In a long since Rogue
Very,
One.
very welcome.
Since the corridor scene in Rogue One, the ending of Rogue One was a huge surprise to me. I never saw that coming.
Yep. Well, all right. We survived season 2 of The Mandalorian. It was phenomenal. Thank you all for those of us who did, all 3 of you probably who came along the ride with us. We enjoyed. We always appreciate you watching. But we'll be back soon with some different content. Lots to discuss in Star Wars. We never run out of topics. So we're not going anywhere, and we hope you don't either. So we will see you again soon. Take care.
We all know round here, Solo always does shots first. Singing your no, raise your glass, and sing your no. Sing it with me, your no.
That was easy.
I had to give it a 2.
At the cantina.
gonna take a shower now.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, just whatever you want to
He
do.
has been dethroned. I'm sorry. You're doing your pre-show exercises.
Yeah.
You like my Grogu impression?
Yeah, that was perfect. It's either Grogu or Beaker, one of the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.